Hello guys, welcome back to our channel here in Maestro Electrico. And for today's topic is all about the two bulbs controlled by two single pole switches individually. So in this case, these two bulbs here will be controlled individually through by the different locations with the use of our single pole switch. So let's say for instance our first bulb here, or bulb A, to be controlled in the first location using the single pole switch. In the second bulb, we have bulb B to be controlled only by the second location of the switch using the single pole switch again. Okay? Now, so before we discuss our installations of the two bulbs controlled by two single pole switches individually, of course, we have to discuss it again, the three cycles of current to flow, and of course, to explain as to how are we going to draw the wiring diagram of the two bulbs controlled by one single pole switch. The three cycles of current to flow, we can observe the three parts of the circuit. The first one, we have the source, the load, the control device, and of course, the conductors showing an illustrations that it cycles from the start up to the end. Okay? Then, the three cycles of current to flow starts with the first cycle, the second and third cycle around this part. So this is our third third cycle around this point. Okay, in the first cycle, we have the source. We discussed it thoroughly with our previous discussions about previous topics about the three cycles of current flow. So I think we don't need to explain it further about the three cycles, but only bear in mind that in the three cycles of current to flow, in the first cycle, we have from the source going to the load. In the second cycle, we have the load to the control device. In the third cycle, we have the control device going back to the source line. So, the current to flow. First cycle, we have from source to load. Second, load to control device. Third, we have from control device to the source line. Okay, so source to load, load to switch, switch to source. All right, so that is our three cycles of current to flow. So how are we going to apply the three cycles of current to flow into a diagram with two bulbs controlled by two single pole switches individually? Okay, so in the first bulb we have here, we will apply our first cycle circuit. So we have here our first cycle, and also here as our first cycle. Look at this. So in the first cycle, we have from source to load, this way. So we have here one load coming from the terminal of the bulb, that way. Then, to supply to the other load, for the first cycle, we will use this wire, one of this wire here. We will just connect right here. So we have three wires already connected in the first cycle, in the first part of the circuit. So we have one, two, three wires already. All right. Then here we will execute also the lines. So we have here another for the first cycle also. So we have two wires only in the first cycle on the other side. So we have three wires and two wires for the first cycles only. All right. Now in the second cycle we have from the load to the control device. So in this case, we have already the condition as to where the bulb A to be controlled by the single pole switch. So in this case, we only have to use bulb A to be controlled on the first location of the switch using the single pole switch right here. Okay, so in this case, bulb B or bulb A will be connected here, this way. Sorry. So this one will be connected right here. So two wires only this way, 2 wires only. That is our second cycle. Okay. Now, what about bulb B for the second cycle? Bulb B to be controlled on the second location of the switch using the single pole switch also. So meaning to say, the second terminal of the bulb B will be distributed going to the first or one of the terminals coming from the second locations of the switch. This one. So 2 wires also for the second cycle on the second load of the circuit or the bulb B. Alright? So for the third cycle, of course, we have here, right here, from the control device going back to the source line, which is the line 2. So meaning to say, in this case, this wire, we will use this wire here for the bulb B connections going to our third cycle execution. So we have to use this one and this one only. So we have 2 wires executed for our third cycle. Okay, so this wire again here will be distributed here. Then this is intended for the last part of our circuit connections, which is the third cycle. So in this case, we will use this one right here also, then right here also. So meaning to say, we have 3 wires, 1, 2, 3, as to our third cycle connections. So we will now shift into the actual wiring connections for have our better understanding. Of course, we will use that one wiring board here in this actual wiring devices. So here we go now in our wiring installation with our wiring devices. Okay, so we have here the circuit breaker, the 2 bulbs here, bulb A, bulb B, then the junction box and the switch. Then we have here our main plug, this one. This will serve as our source line for line 1 and line 2. So in this case, I identified already our live wire, this one, it having this indication using the electrical tape. So meaning to say, with this sign, I consider this already as our live wire. So this one is the neutral line, meaning this is the line 1. The live wire is our line 2. Okay, so neutral line. So we will of course find first the neutral line coming from our loads, which is the bulb. Okay. Okay, so using with our multi-tester here, we will set the multi-tester to resistance reading only. This one. With the continuity testing using with the buzzer. Right? So we will find first as to which of the wires coming from the load is intended for the neutral connection. So in testing for the neutral connections for our bulb is all you have to do is to put the test probe into our bulb side right here in the shell of the bulb. Then we will look for the continuity, this one. So meaning to say, this one is our neutral line connection. Then find the other also, the other one. Okay, so this meaning to say this one is our neutral connections for coming from the bulb. Neutral, neutral, neutral. Okay, for the first cycle. So to do that, of course, I have done in removing the insulator here. So I'll just do have to some additional of the removal of the insulator. So in the first cycle, take note, we have from the source, which is line 1. going to the load. So neutrals coming from source to load, this one. And of course, we will supply for the other wires coming from our second bulb. So we will use this wire. So 3 wires already. So 3 wires also right there in our diagram. So do this one. So 3 wires connected together here in the first cycle on the first branch of our circuit. Okay, then remove some other parts in the last part. Okay, that is the first cycle in this first junction box. So meaning to say, this wire here, this one, is also connected to our neutral connections from our bulb B. Okay, so this one. Okay, then we will also remove some other parts in the last part of our connection. Then, okay, so we have done with our first cycle connection. So we will now proceed on our second cycle connections. Now in the second cycle connections, of course, from the load, this wire is to be connected to the control device as to where it is being controlled. So in our case, bulb A to be controlled in the first location of the switch using the single pole switch. So this one to be controlled right here. You can actually interchange the wire already coming from the control device. Alright, so this way, from load to switch, we will use this one. From the load to switch connection, this way. Okay, we will remove the last portion of the connections. Right, one second cycle. Then of course here, for our second cycle here, from the load, which is the bulb B, to the control device in the second location, right here. So hold this tight. Hold this tight here, and then twist the wire clockwise. And then this one, remove the last portion of the connection. Okay, so we have done with our first cycle. Of course, we will proceed now on the third cycle. In our third cycle, we have to use the last terminal coming from the control device going back to our source line. So we have two control device here. So we need to say we will start from here. Okay, going back to our source line right here. We have still the other one here, wire, this one. So we will use this wire to supply the connections going to our source line. So we will tap first this one here. We will connect first this way. Then the last one, this is for the control device going back to the source line, which is the line 2, which is also our live wire. So 3 wires already here. to complete the circuit. Okay, so this is the last part of the wiring connections of the two bulbs controlled by two single pole switches individually switching. Okay, so this is it. Then we will do the insulation. Okay, we will insulate each of our wiring connections here. So let's do this, guys. So in this case, bulb A to be controlled only here in the first side, in the first location of the switch. Then we will secure our wiring connections inside the junction box. Of course, we will insert those wires here. This one, then this one also here, and on the other side, this way. Okay. Then push inside. Then we have here the cover. Put some cover, of course. Then screw it inside. This way. Put some screw on the other side. To secure our wiring connections. Right? So this way. Then also here, secure also here. Put the cover, and of course with our screw. Okay, so we have here with our extension wire here. This will serve as our source line. We have the line 1 and the line 2 from our main plug. So off first, this way, because we have to check it first, the functionality, this one, of our circuit. So right here, okay, look at my multi-tester here. Let's check it out. So we have here ×1 settings only, ×1 setting. Okay, we have that. See that? Off, on, off. The other side, the multi-tester, on, off, on, and off. So we will on first the other side, on, plus the other side on, then off from the breaker. Okay, to double check before we energize. Okay, so meaning to say there's no problem with our wiring connections. Then we have now the good signal to energize the circuit. Okay, so we will now switch on our main circuit breaker. On, we will off on the first bulb, second bulb off, first bulb on, second bulb on, off A and B through the aid of our circuit breaker. Okay, thank you guys for watching.